Something strange and mysterious happened on the night of February 25th, 1942 in Los Angeles. Residents of the city awoke in the early hours of the morning to sirens, aircrafts, flares, and bright, imposing military searchlight. An hour later, civilians reported that gunshots could be heard in the distance and anti-aircraft cannons roared deep into the morning at some unknown threat. As the dawn broke, the confused civilians and mystified military could find no wreckage or evidence that there was even a threat in the first place. So, what happened on this strange night? Why did the military suddenly turn Los Angeles into an active war ground or war zone? And the question on everyone's minds, how does it connect to aliens? This is Red Thread, and today we're talking about the Battle of Los Angeles. Hello guys, how are we doing today?
Pretty good, actually.
I am doing fantastic.
I feel great. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel good? You ready to enter an active war zone?
Yeah.
Strapping on our time machines, heading back to Los Angeles. Didn't know this existed. Had no clue about this until I did research this last week.
The only short story I've ever written is about the Battle of Los Angeles.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah. So I'm
what? Wasn't there a movie based on this? I feel like there was a movie, or was that something?
Yeah, I think it was. So there was Cruise, but it's like new though. It's the new Battle of Los Angeles. It's like
that movie's called Battle of Los Angeles, and it's like modern day military forces
so it has
having gunfights with aliens in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me.
You're proud of yourself for that one. You're proud of yourself for pirating it.
Yeah, I actually know a lot about the Battle of Los Angeles. There was a private first class named Ron Roper who was using a searchlight outside Los Alamos. There was all the happenings in Los Angeles with the sightings in the sky, and then there was more in Los Alamos and Groom Lake in Nevada. And he was actually paralyzed, and then he woke up in the hospital 7 years later, and he grew 4 feet. He was 4 feet taller, and he was a giant, and he didn't realize. And that's the short story I wrote. That's not real. That didn't actually happen.
Right. I was like,
I thought you were saying that was. I was like 7 years. I haven't heard that part of it. Yeah, I see what happened.
Yeah, but you heard of the growing 4 inches part.
Yeah,
yeah, the alien enlarging ray.
Grew 4 feet. Yeah,
incredible.
It's actually pretty cool. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Did you do that for like a high school literature class or something, or was this just for fun?
It's actually lore. We have a novella that is going to release alongside the game, and it's going to have that in it. It's really funny that we're doing the Battle of Los Angeles.
So this random topic.
Yeah,
this random topic.
You started talking about it, and I was like, "Huh? I know about that."
You know what that means? Another chance to advertise your game, please.
No, that's the easiest segue ever. But no, I refuse.
All right, well, I'll take over here with the advertisements. This episode is sponsored by AG1. You'll hear more from them later on. Big thank you to them. But also, a Red Thread first, guys. We now have merchandise available for the Red Threaders out there. Gives new meaning to Red Thread, really. Now you can wear it on your body with some nice custom threads. I'm wearing the design right now. I'll move my microphone out of the way. It's a Red Thread shirt featuring all 3 of us, as well as some cryptids like Mothman. Really cool art design, so you can go check that out over at official.men. It's available right now, and members over at official.men get between 10 and 15% off, so I highly recommend going and checking out that website and scoring yourself some Red Thread merchandise, our very first one.
It's very kind of you to put the guest on the shirt like that, I think.
Oh, yes. It wasn't very annoying at all replacing Charlie from this merchandise. This merchandise has been in the works for like 4 months now. It was finalized the day that Charlie left, and then I was like, fuck me. Now we're going to go back to the
Where is the merch? I want to look at it. Can I see it?
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it now.
The guest doesn't get a no. That's how.
Oh, shucks.
But we're selling your face on it. But you don't get any of the profits from it. That's how
you get the profits. Don't worry.
Let's see.
There you go.
Red Thread Crypto. Am I actually in this?
Yeah, you're the middle one.
That's
you
me?
took the place of the guest is in the middle.
That's so funny. That's really good merch. Holy fuck.
The merch goes so hard. I love it. Yeah.
That's so good. Wow.
It's really cool. I love it. So
It is now
official.men
available.
to check that out. It's now available. While supplies last. Get it before Christmas. Shipping will happen pretty quickly if you grab it now. So go check that out. Big thank you if you do score yourself some official merch. Feel free to send through photos of you repping it. That'd be sick. But now, Battle of Los Angeles. Let's get on it, boys. Let's learn about the Battle of Los Angeles.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to kick off since you're so excited, Caleb, or should I kick it off and you get to the juicy part?
Well, we're gonna first have a bit of World War II history. So, who's the most World War II history buff of us?
Me, baby. That's me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you heard of a little known event called Pearl Harbor? Because if so, then you're
what?
perfect
What's
for
that?
this.
For what?
What's
What
that?
happened in Harbor?
Pearl what? It sounds like a Chinese restaurant.
Pearl Harbor. Could you?
It actually does. It sounds like I feel like.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine like a Chinese buffet in a small town? It's called Pearl Harbor.
Literally, I think there was in my small town. I think there was a Chinese restaurant called Pearl Harbor.
That would be the funniest like fake outrage bait to get a bunch of people mad in like small town Kansas or whatever.
Yeah. I think it has a.
Be like a newly immigrated family opens Pearl Harbor Japanese cuisine.
I think it probably flew over better over here, which is why it existed in my hometown. Maybe
it flew better over there.
Yeah,
I bet it did.
Yeah, it was fine over here.
Not a lot flew that well at Pearl Harbor.
No, a very tragic event 100 years ago. So
yeah,
it's okay to make.
Yeah,
these
definitely
jokes.
still reeling from it. Pearl Harbor. The United States was already on high alert in February of 1942.
Why?
Still in the middle of World War II.
Yeah, what happened? What happened?
I don't know. Let's find out. Still in the middle of World War II. Just a few months prior, on the evening of December 7th, Japan had surprised the U.S. with an attack on their naval base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. They wanted to expand their rule into Southeast Asia, but one major roadblock in their way was the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The attack came in two waves, the first involving 183 aircrafts, with their main targets being the U.S. battleships and airfields supplying and protecting the Pacific Ocean. Everything was perfectly timed by the Japanese, and they came with the element of surprise. The first wave hitting America at the brisk time of 7:55 a.m. Lasted just half an hour, but caused mountains of destruction. Notably, the USS Arizona and USS Oklahoma being decimated by bombs and torpedo hits.
God, the Japanese were dicks back then. Element of surprise. Weren't they meant to be honorable?
That is such a funny downplay of like the rape of Nanking.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
The mass incarceration and
they did some
execution
pretty
of
bad
foreigners.
things. Like the Japanese Empire.
And just to be
did
like,
some pretty
they
bad
were
things.
rude.
Yeah,
They were
Where's
not
the honor,
nice.
Japan? Where's the
Not
honor?
nice.
You gotta give America warning before you strike their naval bases. At least give them a heads up.
Yeah, you
3
got
days
to
in
let
advance.
people know. Was it the Arizona that those people were trapped in for
Yeah.
like a week straight, and they listened to him starve to death or whatever?
I believe
Yeah.
there was one of the ships that had catastrophic damage where people were trapped inside for like a week. Crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Pretty rough way to go.
Mm-hmm.
With barely time to catch a breath, the second wave came 15 minutes later at 8:45. Any ships or facilities that had not been destroyed during the first wave were now the target. While met with some form of resistance from the American forces, substantial damage was still made on several ships and buildings in the harbor until the attack finished at 9:45 a.m. The Japanese withdrew to avoid the possible incoming retaliation. Catching the Americans unprepared for this attack, the Japanese were able to maximize their damage to the base while minimizing the risk of a prolonged fight and rebuttal.
If you want a good history lesson on Pearl Harbor, I highly recommend the movie from 2001, I think it was, by the same name,
The one
Pearl
with
Harbor.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I think so. It had Ben Affleck. Yeah, it did. Directed by Michael Bay. Horrible movie. Terrible movie.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, I
you
thought you were
kinda
being
see what
serious for a
happened.
second. I was like, I don't think that's the
No.
common. I don't think that's standard.
it was
consensus.
truly an awful movie. Was there another one, like a better Pearl Harbor movie that I could actually recommend?
Pearl Harbor's a good scene in a lot of movies. Like in the opening of that movie, Midway. The opening of the movie Midway is like a really cool attack on Pearl Harbor scene.
Yeah.
That entire movie goes hard. If you haven't seen it, that like there's these dogfight scenes that are just shot so well. That's such a cool action movie. But yeah.
Oh my god, that was directed
Midway?
by Roland Emmerich, the same guy who did Moonfall. No way.
One of my favorite movies.
Good. Midway was.
No, Moonfall.
Oh, Moonfall is fucking fantastic. That's a classic.
Dude. Okay,
So
both
good.
of you all homework. You have to watch Midway. It is such a good movie.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of it. I mean, I've heard of Midway, the Battle of Midway, but not the movie.
There's a scene in Midway where the Japanese have caught American survivors, and they have the Americans' ankles tied to anchors. And if the Americans don't answer where their fleet's coming from, they're going to kick the anchor into the ocean. So, like, you get dragged in.
What are they, old-timey pirates? What is that?
Yeah, pretty much, like tying weight to your leg. So an American steps up, and they're like, "Are you going to talk?" And he's like, "Yeah, give me a cigarette." And then they give him a cigarette, and he takes a puff from it. And he's like, "I'm not telling you anything." And then they kick the anchor, and he drowns. But he just wanted to smoke before he died. I think about that all the time, like how
That's
cool
crazy.
that guy was. It's a great. You need to watch it. Unrelated, but yeah.
Yep. All right. Watch that one instead of the romance movie starring Ben Affleck.
Yes. Watch the opening. Like, I think it's like a 10-minute scene in Midway about Pearl Harbor. It's really good.
Watch Moonfall.
Yeah.
Watch Moonfall.
that had the best Pearl Harbor scene in it.
Yeah. Pearl Harbor moon base.
I'm pretty sure the moon crashed into Pearl Harbor during that movie. It crashed.
That's
into
what
the entire
happened,
planet.
I think.
Yeah.
That's what happened in real life, I'm pretty sure. Over 2,400 Americans were killed and another 1,000 wounded that morning. 200 of the U.S. planes at the harbor were completely destroyed, and 8 battleships, 3 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and more were severely damaged or were now underwater. The U.S. military and public were left shocked after this attack, many fearing that cities like Los Angeles or New York would be next. This fear was also fueled by the media at the time, reporting sensationalized stories on more possible invasions. This was a difficult time for many, and there was heightened racial tension growing throughout the country, Japanese Americans receiving the blunt of the mistrust.
Then there's a photo here from the Los Angeles, I think it's the Los Angeles Times, I'm not 100% sure, but it's a picture of like a Chinese man, a Los Angeles worker, Howard Yip, and he's written a sign on his back permanently while he's working that says, "Me Chinese, please no Jap," to avoid any like possible abuse. So that, like Asian people had to walk around with signs declaring that they weren't Japanese at the time, which is fucking mental. I can never fully comprehend just a very quick move post World War II to how celebrated the Japanese became after that, because obviously they incorporated rather nicely into Western civilization after the collapse of the Japanese Empire. But it's just crazy, like how they were perceived then to how they were perceived very quickly after the fact. I don't know. It's just really, really crazy how quickly that happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. The
reconciliation effort.
Yeah, it's wild that seeing that guy with the sign that says "Me Chinese, please no Jap." That's like I'm assuming he's trying to prevent himself, obviously, from being abused and from being.
Or maybe he looks like he's smiling there though in that photo. I'm wondering if there's like some kind of joke
prankster
there. Yeah, the guy in the back is also smiling and laughing. I'm not sure.
Well, the reason he's smiling is because he's actually Japanese, but thought it'd be a good idea to wear that jacket.
Yeah, maybe.
Style. It's just style.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll never know.
It's streetwear.
It's the equivalent of wearing like putting a mustache on and being like, "He went that way, officer." Like,
they rounded a lot of Japanese people up and put them in internment camps.
Internment camps. Yep. A lot of people.
Where were those internment camps at?
Arizona.
That's a good question.
Arizona.
Were they actually?
They were in Arizona. Yeah, the ones I know of were in Arizona.
I'm Arizona sober. You guys know what that means?
Nope.
Haven't smoked meth in 8 months.
Good shit.
That's
Do you get a
pretty
coin? Do you get a little coin for that? Like, how's that work?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Good shit.
Yes, sir, bud. Got me a little coin. It just looks like a normal quarter, though.
Okay, so yeah, there were 120,000 Japanese or people of Japanese descent who were concentrated in 10 different camps, mostly in the western interior of the country.
Yep, pretty sad, pretty not good if you ask me.
Nope, not very good at all.
And it wasn't just Pearl, but that's tough talk coming from a penal colony person. And it wasn't just Pearl Harbor that laid the foundation.
Wait, are you implying that I live in an internment camp of my own?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who said that. I didn't say that. No one said that. It wasn't me.
I'm free. This is the land of the free. Freer than you.
Yeah, that's what I'd say too if I was left on an island to figure out how to not die on it.
I can get off anytime I want.
Mm-hmm.
I just choose not to.
Yep. Yeah, that is exactly what someone in a penal colony would say. And it wasn't just Pearl Harbor that laid the Was it you kidnapped someone and put him on an island, and he's like, I can leave this island whenever I want. That's what you sound like.
Prove it.
And it was exactly prove it. And it wasn't just Pearl Harbor that laid the foundation to the growing tension across America. 2 days before the Battle of Los Angeles, a Japanese submarine, I-17, rose out of the water around 2,500 yards offshore of Santa Barbara, California. This happened right as President Roosevelt was delivering one of his fireside chats. This one in particular was called On the Progression of the War. In this speech, Roosevelt spoke about America now being engaged in the current global conflict against countries like Japan and Germany. Many were tuning in to hear the president assure the people that the government was being proactive about the challenges of war. While the public conversation was happening, the aforementioned submarine that rose at the same time was pointing directly at the Elwood oil field.
Do presidents still do that these days? Like have
Good
this
ones
like,
do.
routine fireside chat? Yeah, I feel like they don't really talk to the public unless it's to campaign.
They don't talk unless it's to campaign or to say we're about to be in a gunfight.
Yeah.
So you
That's
really don't ever want to hear from the presidents if it's just bad news. Yeah, I feel like President Roosevelt had the very first like podcast in a way. So
there's a reason he was in office for 16 years and died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude was kind of awesome. Don't you know, Jackson?
No, I don't know anything about Roosevelt. Is he the one with the dam?
No, that's Hoover.
Hoover Dam, that's the one. But that's where the Transformers were hiding in one of the Transformer movies.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
the extent of my presidential knowledge with America.
That's cool, Jackson. I'm happy for you, buddy.
It's a good movie. Transformers rock.
They readied up their deck gun and aimed for the Richfield aviation fuel tank. It was around 7 p.m. at night. Many shots missed their intended targets. Gasoline points, and though damage was minimal, the Japanese crew still shot down a derrick and pump house. But they did achieve their main goal, to incite fear into the American public. And their strange coincidental timing was the cherry on top. A quote from President Roosevelt during the fireside chat, is this? Yes, the same one.
Yeah.
The broad oceans, which have been heralded in the past as our protection from attack, have become endless battlefields on which we are constantly being challenged by our enemies. We must all understand and face the hard fact that our job now is to fight at distances which extend all the way around the globe.
Oh God, that's hype. I'd do anything for that man. I'd lay my life down for that man.
This is
I'm not even American.
Well, think about it. Everyone in your country is like moving towards one objective. Everyone's either a part of the war or a part of the war effort. And then the president's like, the oceans that once saved us are now battlefields wrap around the earth. Like there's a reason.
That's pretty cool.
Our grandparents used to talk about everyone used to be so together, so united because everyone was on the same team for a period of time.
Yeah, that would have felt so fucking well. Apart from the fact that you were all dying, like
I just can't imagine not going out in public and just hating half the people I see for no reason.
Yes.
I just can't imagine a world in which I don't just fucking hate people for no reason.
Where you go out and you all feel unified in the same message, and there's this sense of camaraderie.
Yeah.
I think
and you've got leaders that are like, mercy.
I think the closest we've come is probably COVID, where we were all even then though, obviously there were large pockets of people that were like warring against
dying
other
from
pockets
COVID?
of people. Well, that and also like anti-maskers or mask. Even that was still like
it was very divided.
But
Yeah,
it's
I
still
remember,
probably the most together we've been.
The first month of COVID, I had a bunch of Gravy SEAL buddies back in Virginia, and they're all just like, I heard they're going to shut down the county line and we're going to have to start lining up for rations. And I was like, what? Are we watching the same news? What's going on right now? What the fuck? But I moved to Texas as all that was fucking happening, and it basically just wasn't a thing here, and everyone was pretty unified.
Pretty chill, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same over here. I think most people were unified. You had the more extreme elements, fringe groups pop up and shit like that happening. But that's everywhere now. And I think that's just a extent of, or a byproduct of the internet, right? It's just everything is going to be this divided now because everyone's got different sources of information.
Have you all ever seen the movie Master and Commander?
No.
What the fuck? I think I have. Yeah, I think very, very.
The one about
ago.
Napoleon, on the oceans.
Yeah.
So the opening text crawl of that movie, I always thought, even as a kid, I thought it was so cool. The opening text crawl, it says April 1805. Napoleon is master of Europe. Only the British fleet stands before him.
God,
Oceans are now battlefields.
Oh,
just so hard. I love it.
Imagine going down in history as the greatest adversary of all time, the opponent to entire kingdoms and nations.
I mean, even to be the greatest adversary in the world for a time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
to be
insane.
To be the challenger of the world,
Yeah, the conqueror of the world. It's almost more impressive back then too, when everything was so kind of fluid, kingdoms were falling apart and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's
I don't
really
even
cool.
know how true it is. If it's not true, I don't want to be corrected. But the whole thing that after Alexander the Great conquered the world, that he drank himself to death because there was no more land to conquer. That goes so hard.
He just got bored, dude. He just got fucking bored, dude.
That's toxic masculinity.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck, I get it, dude.
Yeah,
I get
fuck
it.
you and your desperate need to conquer.
That's my vibe. I'm on that Alexander. I'm smoking that Alexander Hamilton pack or whatever. Whatever his last name was.
Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great.
It's Alexander the Great. Alexander Hamilton was
right.
the founding
He was a
father.
musical guy.
Oh right. Yeah, I don't subscribe to twits like Alexander Hamilton.
Now I'm imagining Lin-Manuel Miranda as Alexander Hamilton conquering the world and then drinking himself to death.
We could only hope.
Yeah, those sideburns are next level. All right.
Okay, I'm gonna keep reading about
this.
Actually, wait. When you think about it, Lin-Manuel Miranda is probably the greatest conqueror of our generation. He took over the sound waves for a long period of
Don't
time.
you dare say
He did.
anything.
Yeah.
He owns musicals
I'm
now.
furious.
Despacito.
That makes me so mad.
That's
Isn't
not
he the
even-
Despacito guy?
I think I know you well enough to know that you're joking, but I'm actually not
Dude,
sure.
I'm just saying things that are not true. Just
Okay.
just seeing what happens.
I'm just lying.
Just seeing where it goes.
Think of it.
I'm just seeing where it goes, dude. I'm trying to
I love
contribute.
to lie.
I'm trying really hard to contribute today.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Anyways, sorry, Isaiah.
Okay, yeah, back to it. Everyone was scared and on edge. The public was expecting an attack at any point from the Japanese. Blackouts were being enforced across the country, but specifically on the West Coast. Cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego going dark at night to avoid being easily found by the Japanese war machine, which is a kind of existence we can't even think
Fathom.
of, right?
Yeah, that's
Imagine your city shutting down so it can't be seen by submarines on the coast.
That is
you know?
actually insane. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to survive. Fuck that. Turn the lights on. Who cares? Who
Turn the
cares
lights
if we
on.
get bombed? I need my internet.
I'm
need
gonna
to
get
goon.
kamikaze. All right.
Yeah.
That'd be me unironically. It's like, get me, I'm right here.
Oh,
Send your zero to my house.
You can bet your ass. Talking about unified, if this happened today, people would absolutely not stand for their internet being turned off, even if there was a monumental threat like submarines off the coast. They'd be like, "Fuck no, keep the internet on. We need it."
I want to see where the submarines are at. Let me see.
Yeah, I want to GPS tag them. I want to track them.
If people didn't comply, they were faced with fines or angry fellow residents. Air raid drills were practiced, loud sirens routinely pierced through the air, and every family had an evacuation plan regularly acted out. Films, posters, and radio broadcasts were telling the public to conserve resources and support the war effort. Paranoia and fear were understandably growing. The public was reminded of the possibilities of an attack on their home soil every single day after Pearl Harbor, which leads us into the night of the battle.
I can't imagine the psychic damage you would have if every single day you were told
damage.
you're about to be attacked.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, but you get used to it though. That's the beautiful thing about being a human being, and the fiery adaptation that is possible for all of us is just like, it seems so bad, and then you live in it, and it's just like, oh, this is my new normal. I'm fine.
But we're saying, I think yes, but we're also saying that as three people that have never existed in those kinds of conditions.
I'm not saying that it to like devalue how difficult it is. I'm just saying humans can absolutely adapt to any horrible situation.
Right, yeah.
In general, like
Humans
I don't
strong.
need to be in a terrible situation to be able to say that. You know?
Yeah, true.
Like that's
true.
yeah. Like they're I mean, yeah, I feel like these people were probably happier than us, in all honesty.
Because
to be real.
Because why?
Well, I mean, I think you need like a level. A lot of people just have apathy and they just don't give a fuck. I mean, nobody likes each other anymore.
A lot of people need a certain level of
Purpose.
conflict, or else they'll develop it
it's
themselves.
like discomfort.
Yeah.
There's like something to be said against like aligning against something, even if it's just I got to keep the lights on or off at night, or I'll get killed by the Japanese. And then you just go about your job during the day. It's like that's cool. Everyone can relate at night. When you're worried about the
everyone
Japanese
at the same
bombing you.
time is like, hey, we're almost under attack, and so it's like, you know, the common enemy helps.
Yeah.
Now, the
Are you
issue
saying
is that gets
it gave like
weaponized to a
everyone
point.
a level of purpose, and we need purpose?
Yeah.
It gave everyone a level of
Yeah, I think
purpose
so.
and community, because
Okay.
you're all fighting the same guy. Hey,
Yeah.
let's spare eating this much or doing this much for rations so it can help the troops out who are overseas, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like everyone's on the same side of this fight. Everyone's together. Everyone like knows the drill, what's going on. There's no question of who do I support, who am I against, because it's laid out for you.
Mhm.
Now that gets weaponized to a degree where you have neighbors reporting reporting their Asian neighbors because they suspect they're with the Japanese and getting sent to internment camps. Obviously, that's too extreme for it, but there is a balance somewhere in there where people feel together against a threat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, we've only been really civilized for like not that long in terms of where people just haven't been blasting each other and hurting each other all the time. That's just everybody knows somebody who's been murdered in some kind of war or tribal warfare. I mean, like,
I mean, Redditors would say we're still not even civilized to this day. So
yeah. So it's like, I don't know. There's just so much. There's just so much that's kind of ignored in terms of like what the burden of what's human beings are capable of and what we like to do without being able to really analyze it.
modern civilization has only really existed for like 120 years, maybe.
Yeah. So basically,
This is
I'm
all
saying,
new.
bring it on, Japan. Fucking bring it on. I'll turn my lights
Round
off.
2, baby. Round
Yeah.
2.
I'll turn my fucking
Wait,
lights
Two
off.
baby.
We're
Now
ready
watch your
this
strap.
time. We won't
Now
be
watch your
surprised
strap.
again.
Motherfucker. Watch your strap.
Imagine if the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor again tomorrow or something. Just crazy out of nowhere. No one was expecting South Korea to stage a coup d'etat, or the South Korean president, I mean. Like, that shit came out of nowhere.
Martial
Yeah, but
law.
didn't they vote to like stop it or whatever? Like,
Yeah, within like 2 hours. And
boo.
he was like, okay.
Yeah.
Lame.
Get me excited for nothing.
Yep.
Nothing ever happens, gang. Rise up.
That was pretty wild, though. Waking up in the morning and reading that.
Martial
Just like out
law
of the
declared.
nowhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck's happening in South Korea?
I
Shows how
immediately
out of
Googled.
touch we are.
I immediately Googled status of all of my different K-pop groups that I follow, just to make sure
They
they're
have-
okay and they're fine.
They have mandatory like service over there, like in terms of like even the K-pop stars have to serve in the military, which is
Yeah,
crazy. to me.
mandatory serve.
Yeah.
It's mandatory to serve.
Yeah, you have a period of mandatory service.
Hmm.
So even
That's pretty cool.
and even the K-pop stars aren't like. I think one of the BTS guys had to serve for a little bit in the
Even the
South Korean
girls?
military. I don't know about that, but I think. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look that
What
up.
about the old crones? of South Korea.
I think they're fine. I think the old fucking K-pop crones who have aged up to the age of 26. Fine.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, a quick word from the sponsor of this episode, AG1, and we'll be right back. So I've been gearing up for my trip to Japan this December. I'm spending a nice few weeks over there. And one of the main things I'm definitely taking with me is AG1. Why? Because with the amount of things I'm planning on doing and the amount of traveling I'm planning on doing, the one thing I definitely need to have is energy. AG1 is perfect for traveling too, meaning that your digestion and gut health doesn't need to diminish when you're on the go. And again, it boosts your energy, meaning that you are ready to take on the day. Oh yes, AG1 is packed full of all the good stuff you need to reap the benefits while being small enough to travel with and also really quick to prep and drink. AG1 is fantastic on the go. I've seen the benefits, I've felt the energy difference myself after taking AG1 for the last year. My gut loves it, I feel better, and I myself love it. So this new year, you should try AG1 for yourself. It's the perfect time to start a new healthy habit, so why not let that healthy habit be AG1? To make the deal even sweeter, AG1 is offering new subscribers a free gift worth $76 when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/redthread to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/redthread to start your new year on a healthier note. Thank you so much for checking them out. Thank you to AG1 for supporting the show. And now back to Los Angeles, the city of angels. Okay, we're back. Now let's figure out what happened on the night of the Battle of Los Angeles.
Would you like to take this, Caleb, since this is your moment?
This is my big moment. I also would like to warn both of you that I have some kind of severe respiratory illness, so I will probably mess up stuff and cough.
Oh, I can hold on. I can read. You don't have to. You don't have to suffer through an illness.
I mean, I can try it. I can try it. I don't know.
No, buddy, it's okay. You don't put the gun down.
I think it's some kind of advanced COVID.
Yeah,
it's taking hold of me.
Isaiah, I think this is
okay. Well,
we're human beings.
I'll read it.
No, this is the only way he can get better is by forcing himself to do this.
We just talked about human adaptation, Isaiah.
Yeah, you're right. Make the sick one read.
You're just weakness masquerading as help, is what you are, Isaiah. Trying to help me.
Well,
don't take that hand, Caleb.
Okay, you read right ahead. Let's see if I do it again.
And things weren't that different on the. That was the joke. I didn't actually.
No.
And things weren't that different on the day of the 24th of February. Remember, so that night. All right, let's get a little more context.
Yeah.
That night. And things weren't that different on the day of the 24th of February. Remember, days prior while Roosevelt was delivering a speech, the Japanese had fired 16 shots at the Elwood oil field. They had directly attacked the mainland, but what exactly happened on the night of the 24th that led to a full-blown alarm being raised? Let's break down the timeline for the 24th of February, 1942. 7:18 p.m. Sirens blare through Los Angeles as thousands of air raid wardens move to their respective posts throughout the county. A yellow alert had been called when unidentified objects had been spotted on radars around 100 miles off the coastline and heading in the direction of Los Angeles. What? Unidentified objects? Those are called UAPs now.
Yeah, this is old terminology. We're still
lame.
UFO. We're in
they need
UFO
to update
territory.
10:33 p.m. After nearly 3 excruciatingly long hours, the all clear was declared throughout the city. Residents breathed a slight sigh of relief, believing it had simply been a drill. 25th of February, 1:44 a.m. to 2 a.m. Multiple radar stations across Los Angeles picked up an unidentified flying object traveling towards the city. The object was approximately 200 kilometers away from the shore. The military was placed under green alert, indicating that they were ready to act if needed.
That's confusing. Green means good to me.
Same. Green alert. Red alert. That's what I would hear.
Red alert. Red alert would be like, shoot now, don't ask questions, shoot now.
Amber alert is when young people go missing. What about silver alert? That's when old folks they walk off.
Is that actually? I mean,
they walk off.
Yeah, silver alert. Yeah.
Yep, they walk off. They leave.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
It does. It's really not funny, but I get them a lot on my phone. 2:25 a.m. to 2:43 a.m. The familiar sound of alarms rang throughout the city again as Los Angeles was plunged into a citywide blackout. Supposed to bunker down and shelter Supposed to bunker down in shelter, some residents risked stepping out from the streets on their porches or even peering out the window to witness what was happening. Anti-aircraft runners were told to prepare for possible action as the military continued to monitor their radars. Approximately 10 miles out from the city, an unidentified object was picked up. Search spotlights illuminated the sky in search of these supposed enemy planes. First seen over Long Beach, a Coast Artillery colonel reported that around 25 planes at 12,000 feet were heading over Los Angeles. To the military, everything had indicated to them that Los Angeles was now under attack, and they were prepared to hit back. What is that anti-aircraft gun? What is that?
Yeah, so there's a picture here of like a anti-aircraft gun on top of like a building in Los Angeles.
Like a damn
on some, like, it
looks like
small.
a weird Lewis gun looking thing.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? It seems like
it's got a barrel shroud over. It's like water cooled. Interesting.
Yeah,
it's like they're holding it
a little.
it's got like the drum inside. It's clearly water cooled because they have the line running
pipe.
to it.
Yeah.
It's not one of those little R2D2 things.
It's mobile as well because they've got like little sandbags on it, so it's not like a proper installation or anything.
Yeah, it's not like a permanent fix. Yeah,
cruise serve weapon there, partner. 3:07 a.m. to 4:30 a.m., the anti-aircraft guns were fired into the sky, attempting to shoot down aircraft seen over the coast, and the night skies erupted into a war zone. The sky was filled with lights from the searchlights, while dust and debris filled the air. Reports were coming in of slow-moving targets, flying in formations across the city and even near important locations like the Douglas Aircraft Company. Important because the company had a big war contract in place to produce aircraft such as the Dauntless Dive Bomber and A-26 Invader, aircraft that would be crucial in the success of the Allies. There were over 16 verifiable military eyewitnesses that saw various things like weather balloons to various amounts of enemy planes in the sky. Gunfire continued on into the morning, sporadically as reports of enemy planes in locations like Hollywood were slowly disproven. And this is a quote. What kind of voice should this be, this quote, you think?
From military report, I think it should be like an old transatlantic like radio broadcaster.
Okay. At 02... Hold on.
Perfect.
At 02:43, the gun officer reported unidentified planes between Seal Beach and Long Beach. At 3:06, a balloon. At 3:06, a balloon carrying a red flare was reported over Santa Monica and firing on it. Began at 3:07 on orders of the Controller Army to destroy it. A total of 482 rounds of 3-inch were expended at the planes without visible result, except for gun 3 reported setting one plane on fire.
Was he getting shut down in the process?
Oh my god. That's great.
I turned red I just didn't take any breaths. And I'm already very sick and ill.
That is the perfect role to give to someone who's dying from COVID or whatever at the moment as well. So now you're going to get healthy from that. That's great.
I can feel the mucus and phlegm expelling from my lungs. I can feel it. My bronchioles are praising you.
I love talking about bronchioles.
7:21 a.m., the blackout was called off and the morning sun shone over the city. Through the destruction and chaos, there were no enemy planes, bombs, or any evidence to show that a war had just been waged on an enemy force. Over 1,400 rounds were expended. No indications of aircraft wreckage were seen through the early morning, and only shrapnel from the rounds were ever found. Interesting. So it never happened.
Well, no. But I mean, it definitely happened. Like, people saw the fucking anti-aircraft explosions in the sky and shit like that.
It's the targets that are in question.
Yeah, the target. We don't know what they were shooting at.
The Japanese,
I don't think they knew. Yeah, the Japanese.
They were just Chinese.
Yeah, the Chinese started to get involved. Okay, so the aftermath. 5 civilians died that night indirectly from the air raid. 3 were involved in a deadly car accident. I think the car accident was caused by looking at the anti-aircraft, which is why it's attributed to this. And 1 being a police officer, and 2 passed away from heart attacks from the stress of the incident. Properties and cars were damaged from shrapnel flying through the air. Many barely avoided injury, some later telling of how they had gotten out of bed to see what was happening before fragments flew into their beds. And it wasn't quite over yet. There were also bombs in the city that had not gone off yet. Los Angeles was now a minefield. There's still bombs being disarmed to this day from World War II in a lot of city centers, especially over Europe, right?
Dude, in Europe, mortars
in Europe for sure, yeah.
Yeah, in Europe it's wild. France,
crazy.
Landmines were a really big deal, I know, in France for a long time. There were stories of kids dying 10 years after the war from stepping on landmines that were set up.
Fucking mental.
Yeah. Landmines in general have had such a negative impact on humanity just across the board in terms of death.
Landmines
accidental
are
death.
they're a scary implement, because it's like you put them under the ground, that ground forever. It's poison. It's strange.
Once the Japanese surprise attacked Pearl Harbor, it's like honor went out of war. Now they're using landmines and stuff, and giant underwater mines, and surprise.
Well,
tactics and
landmines were
stuff.
being used prior to World War II, and like
I
different.
know. I'm not being serious. Obviously, there's no honor in war. It's not like World War One was like two people went out in a field and like had a samurai battle, and then that decided the war or anything. There's no honor in war usually. And that's ever since caveman times.
What about the Civil War, brother?
Oh yeah, why else would it be called the Civil War? It ended with a handshake.
Exactly.
They're very civil. Yep.
Yeah. They stood across. They just shot each other a lot.
Yeah, and if anyone said
then
stop
one
now,
general would look at his men and be like, "You win," and they'd walk off.
Yeah.
And that one guy held his hand up for a really long time.
Yeah.
Stonewall or whatever.
Can I
Stonewall
shoot
Jackson,
now?
Yeah.
Can I shoot now?
Yep.
Timeouts were called often, and they were
Mhm.
respected. Wait, wasn't the Civil War the one with the where they actually? No, it was World War II, I think, where they took Christmas off. Both armies.
That's World
decided,
War One.
World War One.
World War One.
Yeah.
Where they
World War
decided, give
Christmas
them
treaty.
Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that one was not over shit. World War One was not over. Was over petty.
World War
cousin
One was because a
squabbles.
bunch of empires
Yeah.
wanted to test out weaponry, and they haven't had a good war in a long time.
Mhm.
Everyone wanted their moment. I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
So tragic.
Tragic.
So locals were terrified, and as they looked for answers on what or who had caused the destruction, there was no answers. And then we have a picture here of Los Angeles resident Frank Stewart showing damage to his kitchen. I think he's trying to claim insurance money, because I don't know how the fuck this was caused by anti-air cannons. Maybe
Just debris or like ricochet flying off. Or
everything
something.
else
He's
looks
just
fine. It's just this
unlucky.
one pantry that got fucked
He's just
somehow.
unlucky. He's just really unlucky.
Does this Frank Stewart guy to you guys look like the To Catch a
Chris
Predator?
Hansen.
Yeah, Chris Hansen.
Looks exactly
right?
like Chris
That's
Hansen.
what
I was
The moment
thinking.
saw him, I
It's
thought
Chris
the same
Hansen.
thing.
He's
Yeah.
a time traveler.
He looks
What
like
the
Chris
hell?
Hansen.
For a second,
but
I thought
cute.
it was Chris Hansen taking a picture at a museum with a destroyed
Yeah.
cabinet.
It actually
How the
looks
fuck
one
did
to
that
one.
happen?
Well, Chris
How the
Hansen?
fuck did that happen? How does that actually? And it's all burnt and stuff too. He's like, look,
That's what I'm
he's
saying.
pointing at it.
No, I think what happened is that cabinet is facing an exterior wall. So like a round or whatever came through the wall, through the cabinet, and
Maybe.
did that.
Just exploded in there.
But it's all charred in there like there was a
shoot
fire
an
inside.
anti-aircraft round into a brick wall. And see
What were they
happens.
using though? What were the anti-aircraft rounds? That's really important.
I think they were like 30 millimeter back then, weren't they? 20,
I was-
30
yeah,
millimeter?
just something to tear apart planes. Yeah.
I guess I'm just basing it off that fucking weird ass Lewis gun that they had on the roof. A little tater chucker. It's like a 7.62 or something. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like this guy, he just spilled his bucket of molasses and he's trying to get an insurance payout.
That's what I'm saying. It's an insurance
Yeah.
job. This guy,
Yeah, he's like, look,
poured some gasoline in there.
this is soot from a explosive round, not molasses. Do not taste it. It's soot.
It's the Chris Hansen thing to do as well, because he was scamming people lately. I think.
Yeah, true. He loves scamming. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. It's shooting from the hip.
Allegedly.
It says in that post we read a second ago that they were firing 3-inch rounds, right?
Right. Okay.
So 3-inch
Right.
was like an old like 30. I think it was like a 30 millimeter, something like that. I forget what 3H was a designation of, but so yeah, it's like 30 millimeter they were firing.
But it
Yeah,
looks like
true.
there was fire inside, because look at the scorch marks and stuff. It looks like there was fire in the pantry.
3 inches. What 3 inches would be? Yeah, because like a half inch is like 12.7, so it'd be like 70 something.
It's 76.
Yeah, 70 something millimeter,
76.2.
Yeah.
So that's big.
Oh yeah, duh, because 0.3 inches is
Mhm.
a 30 caliber 7.62. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So for
Yep.
people who don't have access to guns, like myself, what does that mean?
Big bullet.
Big
Huge bullet. Yeah,
Big
huge.
bullet.
Very big bullet.
capable of
Um,
tearing apart Chris Hansen's living room cupboard.
Yes, yeah, capable of tearing apart
Yeah.
houses. Yeah.
A 3-inch diameter bullet. I mean, look at your wrist, basically, and then just like make that a circle and a little bigger.
And that's a bullet.
And that's the bullet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could potentially kill a human being.
Anything that bullet
I
makes
think.
contact with doesn't exist anymore.
I think it could potentially kill if you're really accurate.
I think potentially if a bullet, if something the size of your arm makes impact with you at 3 times the speed of sound, I don't think you're doing okay.
If you're launching a baby's arm through space and time at 3 times the speed of sound, and it's a little fist, and it punches you in the head, your fucking head's gonna blow up.
And also the baby's fist is made of lead and metal,
and it's really dense. Yeah.
So you're saying it should be fine if I get to the hospital pretty quickly? Sweet, good.
It'll go right through. For those of you who don't know anything about bullets, you'll be fine.
Yeah, nice, good. We should myth bust this. A press conference was held the following day by U.S. Secretary of Navy Frank Knox. Cool name. I love that name. He announced that the incident had been a false alarm due to war nerves. He talked about how the reports that came flowing in were based on misinterpretation, and while he admitted they were thinking of the importance of moving critical industries more inland for further security, people should not panic and they needed to remain calm. That's pretty obnoxious after waging a war in Los Angeles over the previous night over like ghost planes, basically. Fuck that. I'm not being calm after that. I'm getting the fuck out of Los Angeles. The general consensus was that the shell bursts from the anti-aircraft guns were being caught in the searchlights and then mistaken for additional enemy aircrafts, leading to an endless sighting of unknown flying objects. But that doesn't really explain why the first gunshot went off, because again, remember there was like radar pings, wasn't there?
Because it was an alien.
Allegedly.
We talked about this.
Let's ask our war correspondent.
Over to you, wartime correspondent.
There were radar pings.
Thank you, wartime correspondent. I'm glad we got you on payroll. 3
You're
shillings
welcome.
and 1 pence. As further reports began to be released by the Army and Navy, statements started to conflict with each other. Knox had reported that it was all a false alarm, but now it was revealed that it may have been commercial planes or aircrafts that had been launched from submarines. Commercial planes? Like fucking Boeing 717s?
Yeah,
what?
Just shoot them down. Oh my god, it's a plane. Shoot it. Fuck.
Wait, what? Commercial planes? What is that?
This is
I
all
mean, I
just
get
starting
what
to
that
sound.
means.
This is starting to sound more and more like a big insurance claim, to be honest.
Yeah, by
This whole thing.
Chris Hansen up here. He planned this entire thing.
Not only was it
his
molasses.
Well, it says commercial planes launched from submarines. So does that mean like?
I think no. I think it's commercial planes and then or aircraft that have been launched from submarines. So 2 different things.
What the fuck kind of commercial plane gets launched from
like a balloon? I guess you could set off a balloon from a plane.
Let's ask Will
maybe.
Smith.
Or from a submarine.
Maybe commercial. I'm just really hung up on commercial planes. Like, what would that even mean? Obviously not American.
That they were
planes.
accidentally shooting at commercial airplanes.
Yeah, but that would have been pretty easy to like confirm after the fact, surely, when the fucking pilot of the 717 comes on the radio.
Read the next sentence. Read the next sentence.
Okay. These statements were speculatory in nature based on the fact that Japan had only days prior sent shots firing at the nearby oil field, and they were expecting a possible escalation. Then, to confound the situation further, the Secretary of War himself, Henry L. Stimson, claimed that as many as 15 planes may have been involved between elevations of 9,000 to 18,000 feet, directly contradicting the U.S. Secretary of the Navy. Regardless,
So in other words, no one had any clue where anything
even within the military. Even within the military. Like
Upset,
2
right.
different reports from different branches of the military. Regardless, the speculation through official channels and the differing of opinions reported in the media did very little to assuage the public. In fact, it made it worse. On the 27th, the War Department again issued a final report declaring that there were no confirmed sightings or reports of enemy planes, essentially summing it up as if it was an over-exaggeration and the false sightings were due to all the debris in the air. So I guess they got on the same page at that point and issued a joint statement.
They went, yeah, see? And then they were like, we were wrong. Our war correspondent's a dumbass. He's fired.
He's fired. Yeah. What happened to that voice? The see? Voice, because that's my favorite voice.
If you guys, I've been learning a lot about, it's going to sound really dumb, but linguistics and just language.
God,
linguistics.
that is dumb. You're stupid man.
But it's not dumb. The way that I'm learning it is really dumb because it's just inordinately. I'm not learning it in a.
You're just listening to a guy say, see?
Yeah, pretty
Just
like it's
recordings of
happening.
that.
I'm waking up in the middle of the night to 6-hour lectures in linguistics, basically, because my phone autoplays. But adjacent to linguistics, the history of language and how people sounded, how people actually sounded, our founding fathers actually sounded, and how that led to eventually the weird transatlantic accent and just how different everyone sounded even 100 years ago, and then how much that's changed since the radio came out and everyone's voices have kind of melded into something that is less different.
Yeah, it's kind of homogenized, right?
Yeah, and the intention of the transatlantic accent was to homogenize voice so everyone around the world could understand what's going on. There, see?
As
Hey,
long as they
boy.
spoke English.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
So what
And
happened to that voice? What happened to the yeah, see voice? Like when did that stop?
I think people just realized it wasn't swag, and then they stopped because they're like, "This is stupid." As soon as it
The
went to
transatlantic
TV,
accent was never a naturally grown accent. It was a purposeful projection.
Oh, they put it
of
on?
voice.
I thought they just sounded like
yeah, it was
that.
put on.
Actors and like news broadcasters put it on as a means of like presenting themselves in like a certain tone and cadence.
Oh,
But as it became
was
more standardized to
manufactured.
not be that way, it just died out.
Right.
Yeah,
so do
'cause
we
it's like,
how we
makes
talk
no
right
sense.
now? Obviously I have like a Australian accent, so not the same, but like with your guys' accent, the American accent as we see it now. I know there's different, types of American accent.
dialects.
But were those dialects still present back in the 1940s? It's just that they would then put on airs basically by doing that. See?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
The American Southern accent is actually believed to be from old British royalty and stuff like that. That was like the aristocracy
hello,
voice.
I'm from Georgia, like that type
Hello,
of accent
I'm from,
with the
I talk
rolling.
real slow.
I talk
That's supposed
real
to be like
slow.
Is that why people look down on Southerners then? Because they hate British royalty? They think British royalty is stupid?
No, it's because the British royalty moved to the south whenever the area was like started to be colonized, because that's where all like the open land was to like farm and stuff like that. So a lot of them moved down there. But the general like disdain for Southerners developed over the course of the Americans' development. Didn't really have to do with the British influence, because the entire country was British influence. So
Mm-hmm. It had to do with hookworms.
there you go.
There's actually a lot. That's like, some people will be like, "Wow, it's crazy that he knows about that." But you guys, we'll save that for another episode. We'll save that for another episode.
I'm sure we will. People will be waiting for that one. The public was confused, scared, and unsure about everything at this point. Congressional investigations were being demanded by many, including the representative of Santa Monica, which is a video game studio, not a place, Leland M. Ford, who said about the event, "None of the explanations so far offered removed the episode from the category of complete mystification. This was either a practice raid or a raid to throw a scare into 2 million people, or a mistaken identity raid, or a raid to lay a political foundation to take away Southern California's war industries," which is a fucking crazy thing to say as a representative, a US representative. Basically, like the government or the military did this just to, it was a political stunt, basically, to take away industry from our area, that's crazy. That's conspiracy right there. The papers and the broader media began to cover the Battle of Los Angeles immediately, with one of the first being the Los Angeles Times. They continued to update the story when new information came forward, and this began to show how conflicting all of the documents and reports were. This starts with "exaltation was in the air," so I feel like you should read this, Caleb.
Exaltation was in the air. The city had met its first taste of war with valor. It was exhilarating. But exaltation turned to embarrassment the next day when the Secretary of the Navy said that there had been no air raid, no enemy planes. It was just a case of jitters. Embarrassment turned to outrage. The Army was accused of shooting up an empty sky in that guy's cabinet with all the molasses.
Chris Hansen.
The sheriff. Sorry, what?
I said Chris Hansen.
Oh, yeah. The sheriff was particularly embarrassed. He had valiantly helped the FBI round up several Japanese nurserymen and gardeners who were supposedly caught in the act of signaling the imminent evidence.
The Secretary of War tried to save face by saying that while there were no enemy aircraft in the air, it was believed that 15 commercial planes flown by enemy agents had crossed the city. Likely story, chap. Though no one believed this gross canard. Dude, gross canard. That's sick.
That's insane.
That is an awesome gamer tag.
Gross canard. Though no one believed this gross canard, this harangue, most agreed that with the secretary that it was better to be alert than to not alert enough. Bazinga!
Perfect. Can you do that voice, Isaiah?
Probably. There, see?
Yeah.
The city admit its first taste of war with valor, see? A little bit. No, I'm not
See?
going to see this.
I can't do voices, but I do like that.
It was
See?
exhilarating, but exultation turned to embarrassment the next day. A little bit.
I like it. Now pay me in molasses, see? Meh.
A lot came out of the Battle of Los Angeles, including a fantastic movie. A general mistrust towards the military began to grow with the many conflicting statements. Many began to doubt any information that was coming from the government, and many more wondered if they were truly getting all the information about potential threats and the war itself. Public confidence was down. The government also grew increasingly more suspicious of Japanese Americans who had already been suffering after the aftermath of Pearl Harbor. These events led to the internment of thousands of Japanese American citizens under an executive order, which was Executive Order 1966. The military.
Order 66.
I was desperately
Wars,
trying
dude.
not to make the Star Wars reference.
I couldn't help it. You said
I
it.
know.
Basically.
I know. It literally, it's just like Star
YouTuber
Wars.
when he hears about minority internments.
Yeah.
Oh.
How can I relate this to Star Wars?
How can I relate to Star Wars?
Well, that one was easy though. That was a very Emperor Palpatine thing for the US government to do. The military were looking at neutralizing potential internal threats, and events like the Battle of Los Angeles reinforced their decision to take these extreme actions. Was it possible, Caleb and Isaiah, that this was a false flag operation intended to drum up further anxiety about the war, and so public support for the war within America, to allow lawmakers to push forward with actions like internment? What do you think?
Seems possible.
You think they shot into the air a couple times and pretended that there was a threat there in order to push forward the internment plans, basically?
I think that gives a little bit too much credit to the average Joe military people who wouldn't have thought that many steps ahead. If they wanted to throw people in internment camps, they just throw them in internment camps. Which is what they ended up doing.
I think it was legally impossible until executive order passed, which they would have needed. They would have needed the political capital and public will to do that. And sure, like the times were probably more racist towards like Japanese Americans at the time, but there were there was probably still legal ramifications to just pushing that through without something big to support.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like just in general, the sign of the times, if people would probably, you ask the average person, do you think we should throw Japanese people in internment camps? We're at war with them. They attacked Pearl Harbor. And the average person would probably be like, sure, that doesn't affect me or my wife that I beat or anything. Like, they probably wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, they'd probably just be like, yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. But
yeah, they're not one of us. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was a very strong sentiment that probably didn't need a false flag.
I agree. I think the sentiment existed, but I think the reason for a false flag in this situation, I'm not saying I necessarily believe it, was because I think they still would have needed another big event to point to that had more kind of relativity to the people of the country. And I know Pearl Harbor just happened, which they could have pointed to that, but I feel like they needed something big in order to point to, in order to push it through legally. To kind of.
Are you describing 9/11 or?
I mean, yeah, I guess I am.
Because it's what it sounds like.
He's putting together too many pieces. Stop him quick.
Hell no.
Kill that guy. Shoot him.
He's seen all the codes.
I'm not saying I believe. I'm not saying I subscribe to this theory. I'm just saying I could see the rationality for that theory.
You're postulating it. You're postulating it on a podcast with your bros.
I'm chewing it. I'm chewing it around in my mouth, tasting its flavor.
Cuddly playing it like little kitty at the CIA.
Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, have you heard that Kitty History song by
Trevor Moore?
Trevor Moore.
Yeah, Jackson.
No.
Have you heard it?
Moore,
No,
Trevor, no.
I haven't.
You should listen to it.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me.
Yeah,
later.
I'll send it to you.
Pretty good.
Sounds like easy listening.
We need a
There's
new
so
Pearl Harbor as far
much-
as we can. Sorry. I interrupted you. I'm really sorry.
It's just the Discord
Sorry.
delay, don't worry. There is so much more to the horrible story of the Japanese Americans who were taken from their homes and sent to prison camps, detained for the duration of the war while subjected to horrible conditions. Families were torn apart and generational trauma instilled on innocent people. The effect of this was felt for decades mentally, but also their social and economic well-being was severely impacted for many decades to come. In the 1980s, a formal apology was made by the government where they admitted that the treatment of Japanese Americans during World War II was motivated by racism and war hysteria. Executive Order 1966 is considered by many as one of the worst violations of American civil rights to happen in the 20th century. It's entirely possible that the Battle of Los Angeles was conducted in order to make that happen. Which I think, again, I can see why this theory exists, but at the same time, it is pretty extreme. I would more so lay.
It puts way too much faith in the U.S. government. Is how.
Yeah, I mean, there's already a Pearl Harbor.
They're
so
not
it's like,
that organized.
Yeah, the Pearl
Harbor's
Harbor.
way
Yeah, there
worse.
was already Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
That's way worse.
They didn't need more reason. Yeah.
Now they're invading the city of angels. Oh,
Yeah.
That's where you live, not just Hawaii.
You remember
That's where
that
you
attack
live,
that happened?
person.
Well, they may maybe do something that kind of way again, you know?
we should ask Cole
okay.
Phelps, protagonist of L.A. Noire.
L.A. Noire,
what he
God,
thinks.
such a good game. We need an L.A.
My
Noire
cousin.
2. I don't know why Rockstar doesn't make an L.A. Noire 2, other than the fact that that sold awfully, I think.
Yeah, it
We do need
sold
a new one.
awfully, and Let's Players ruined it because nobody wanted to play the game. They just watched people play it.
Yeah, but it was so good. Fuck.
It was amazing, yeah. And his last name is Phelps. That's like the only person ever who has the last name Phelps, aside from me, of course.
Also, Isaiah,
Yeah,
that game
Michael.
came from Australia. Checkmate.
What?
Okay. What's your point?
I don't know. I just
Red Dead's better.
Australian literally being like, "Oh, this game's so good," and we made it. Like, okay, glad you feel that way.
Yeah.
I just feel
Well, we
some
still
level
get to
of
play it,
nationalist
so.
pride.
I'm sorry. I think the penal colony person tried to say something. Could you hear him? I
Penal
couldn't.
colony. I can't hear you over your chains clanking.
A post-war investigation into the events claimed that, quote, it had been definitely ascertained that the blackout and anti-aircraft firing were caused by the presence of from 1 to 5 unidentified airplanes. And this is still the quote. Well, it's possible these airplanes were launched from Japanese submarines. I didn't even know submarines could do that. Launch airplanes?
Yeah, like paper ones.
Yeah, how does that work? Like
Yeah, I
the
don't know how that
balloons I can get. They would have to obviously rise above the ocean and then take off, but wouldn't the planes be wet? I don't know how that works. Well, it's possible these airplanes were launched from Japanese submarines. It is more likely that they were civilian or commercial planes operated by unauthorized pilots. Okay, well, if submarines can launch airplanes, what's even the point of having an aircraft carrier?
In World War II, the only nation to regularly launch airplanes from submarines was Japan.
Wow, so they mastered the technology. No one else had that.
I think that planes can still fly when they're wet.
No.
To be honest.
Birds can't. Well, no, birds can actually.
I was gonna say, I think they just can't fly when they're submerged in water. Maybe. I think that's the main physical limitation.
Yeah, that would create an issue if planes would ever fly through like rain. They
Yeah,
just
or
drop
clouds.
from the sky. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really funny.
Well, how do they get in the planes if it's underwater?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Imagine if they could take off underwater as well. That would be way scary if like a plane just fucking flies out of the ocean.
Maybe it's those little like rocket planes, little kamikaze rocket planes that like
maybe
people just died in from the G-force, but they didn't care.
Yeah. No information was found within Japan to corroborate that the Japanese military had conducted any operations within the area at the time frame in a post-war investigation, and as Japan had been forthcoming with other military information in the post-war time period, it doesn't make sense for them to have lied about this, so Japan's involvement was definitively ruled out. So, they investigated the records after Japan had been westernized, and there was no information about them attacking Los Angeles at all. So that was ruled out. The FBI had conducted their own search into who could have potentially flown aircraft in the area at the time, but they were unable to deliver any concrete theories or evidence. And due to this, the Battle of Los Angeles is pretty securely in the unknown territory, filled with gossip and speculation and theories. So, who wants to talk about aliens? Who loves talking about aliens?
I'm absolutely talking about aliens.
Please do.
Yeah, my vote's Isaiah.
If one was to believe that there were aircraft above Los Angeles that night, and it wasn't the Japanese, and it wasn't other more typical aircraft, then surely the only answer could be that it was aliens. One of the biggest conspiracy theories surrounding the Battle of Los Angeles is that the military were fighting off UFOs, but how did this theory come to be? It all comes back to one photograph, the one at the start of this document, depicting a beacon of light in the middle of the sky with rays pointing up to it. It's an iconic image from that night, showing us what thousands of people saw as the United States military waged war against an unknown threat. However, when a researcher named Dr. Bruce Maccabee examined the picture, he found something astonishing. When he brightened the picture, he found what looked to be a circular kind of object the beams of light were reflecting off of.
Okay, so I assume that's the top picture here of the spotlight hitting like a circular object, and
Seeing
then a bunch of reflections shooting off it. Like a lot of those are spotlights shooting up at it, but there are definitely like lights reflecting off it. You can see to the left and the right the reflection of the light. But that would happen if a spotlight was hitting like a plane or a balloon.
What if it was wet?
Well, then it would soak up the reflection. Well, wait, how's it even flying then? Yeah, I think this picture is like really iconic and cool.
Yeah, it's a really interesting photo. I just have been staring at it ever since I've scrolled down. Yeah,
it's a bunch of spotlights hitting this object, and then like also white dots around, which I assume are the anti-aircraft explosions.
Yeah, the molasses
filled with molasses.
Yeah.
And then there's also a picture underneath it, which I'm too stupid to comprehend, which is like the different directions the lights are going. I think it's meant to mean something.
Convergence region.
Yeah, it's like I think it's the lights bouncing off of each other. If you're lame, that is. It's actually aliens.
Well, no, I think this is the point that people are making, that it is aliens, because apparently UFOs are the only things that can reflect light. Maybe like they're saying there's a giant circular object there that doesn't match any other like known aircraft, and the light is hitting it and then bouncing the light off it. This is proof, Isaiah, that it is an alien.
I see.
Seeing is believing, Isaiah.
Yeah.
Well, this picture was ultimately enough to fuel decades worth of UFO conspiracies surrounding the event. There have been controversy with this image. It was published in the LA Times, which gives it a shred of credibility, but it was actually heavily retouched. When the article was republished, they commented this on the image being edited. The comment read, on February 26, 1942, the LA Times published a photo page that included a retouched version of the above searchlight photo and
fake news! There was fake news even back in 1942. Edited. Photoshop.
Losers!
The retouched version is the iconic image seen worldwide. Back in 2011, I viewed the two negatives. The non-retouched negative is very flat, focus is so soft, and it looks underexposed. Although I could not tell if the negative was the original or a copy negative made from a print, it definitely showed the original scene before a print was retouched. The second negative is a copy negative from a retouched print. Certain details, such as the white spots around the searchlight's convergence, are exactly the same in both negatives. In the retouched version, many light beams were lightened and widened with white paint, while the other beams were eliminated.
It's the same thing that happens to your face in Creepcast thumbnails.
Wow.
All the light.
Man, you got me so good. Wow, you got me good with that one, bro. Thanks.
You're welcome.
You owned me.
I didn't mean to own you. It was meant to be more of a...
I have to quit the podcast now. This is your fault. How do you feel?
It was meant to be more of a, I'm getting on all fours and you are my mecca.
Oh. Oh. All right. Well, anyone who's mad about that comment, you can direct your complaints to Caleb. His phone number is 483-24...
And my email address is brands@sour.gg.
Caleb would happily give the rest of his contact information.
He probably would for the fun of it.
I love talking to people. I love people. Love people.
In the 1940s, it was common for newspapers to use artists to retouch images because of poor reproduction. The retouching was needed to reproduce this image, but I wish the retouching had been more faithful to the original. The Los Angeles Times published another retouch version of the image on October 29th of 45. The white spots near the convergence of the searchlights are larger than in the 42 version. This print is in the LA Times library and in poor condition.
So they doubled down on the retouching and made it even more dramatic after the fact.
Yes, that's what I would do. That's what I would do because it sounds cooler.
Release a new one now and make the white lights even brighter. Yeah.
Give the people what they want.
Put a little gray alien in there somewhere waving at us.
That's what I would. Yeah,
now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Use AI on it.
That's what I'm all about.
Change the expression.
Make it surrealist.
There were reports from civilians who believed that they saw strange lights and shapes in the sky that they could not explain, and it appeared that objects did appear on military radars. Could it have been UFOs? I've seen that maybe dismissing enemy planes were attempts to obscure the real nature of the threat that loomed over LA that night, but wouldn't you want there to be something to blame so the public don't find anything suspicious? There's also so much stress and hysteria going around that people were seeing things they believed could be linked to aliens when it was just a result of the chaos around them. Plus, explosions in the night sky mixed with the blackouts could potentially look like UFOs. Maybe the people of Los Angeles were simply seeing actual stars for the first time due to the blackout and were confused. Haha, timely reference. I appreciate it.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. I've never seen a star before in my life. I'd probably think it was an alien
I
too.
believe you. Yeah, I believe you, penal colony. Probably never looked up. There were...
My neck doesn't go that way. I only look down.
Supposedly people were calling the story is people were calling the police because they could see the night sky for the first time. I think in reality people were that's always been the story. I think in reality people were calling like local astrology departments to report new stuff in the night sky when in reality they could just see it for the first time. Still pretty intense. Yeah. Pretty sad when you think about it. So yeah, I don't necessarily believe their claims of aliens that much. If it were me,
I believe it.
Of course you would.
Yeah, I would. I don't. Yeah, doesn't seem that realistic. Aliens.
Now, if a good old boy had said it, then I'd believe him. But LA, no sir. Fortunately, I regret to inform you there's likely an answer in that of weather balloons.
Yeah.
UFO fans hate them, and this is why. In 1948, a former Army Air Force major named William Goss conducted an investigation into the events at the behest of the U.S. Air Force. He came to the conclusion that the raid was nothing more than a weather balloon. Several officers had testified that they had originally confirmed that the target was a weather balloon carrying a red flare. They had chosen not to fire after they had learned that the weather balloon itself was released by the military themselves. This testimony was further corroborated by a general who confirmed that at least 2 balloons had been released near the area that night. This would also explain the rather slow speed that the UFO had, as it required 30 minutes to cover a distance of 40 kilometers.
I love how they use terminology like they had been released near the area that night, like they're wild animals basically, just roaming the area somewhere up
We
the
don't know
sky.
what this thing's going to do when we let it go.
They go where they feel led.
This dumb bitch, this old fucking
heavens.
balloon. These things got minds of their own.
They'll roam for a bit and then they'll come back in.
But then, why on God's earth did the military open fire on their own weather balloons? In 1949, former Army colonel named John Murphy penned an article where he claimed that when the regional controller in San Francisco received word of the, quote, balloon over Los Angeles, he had incorrectly thought the report had been describing an enemy Zeppelin. Due to the misunderstanding and perhaps in conjunction with the tensions already being enormously high, he had given the order to open fire, and once that had happened, the situation deteriorated due to the action. Another counterpoint that is brought up is the question of, how is it possible that 1,400 rounds of anti-aircraft ammunition was unable to bring down a balloon? I don't have an answer for that beyond the understanding that weather balloons are rather small and travel horizontally and vertically, so they would be rather hard to hit, but even that is a rather unconvincing answer. According to Colonel John Murphy, however, he is sure that sure the balloon survived, writing, both balloons, as I remember, floated away majestically and safely.
Man, that guy loves balloons.
That's pretty funny that they never shot him down. What probably happened is they saw him in the air, and then everyone started firing wildly, and then they never even shot where the balloons were at.
Well, yeah. So I think that like they saw the balloons, and then they got confirmation from one of the generals or whatever the regional controller in San Francisco that gave them confirmation to start shooting, and then they started shooting, and then in the viewfinders or whatever they're called, rangefinders or sights or whatever, they were just seeing the various explosions, like the anti-aircraft explosions, and then just shooting at those basically, because it was at nighttime. They would have seen like dust and smoke and thought that it was other aircraft, so it was just kind of compounding on itself basically. Do you think that's possible, Isaiah? Do you think like they were just shooting at smoke?
Yeah, I think they were just shooting. I think it was just hysteria. People were on edge already, and they had their fingers on a lot of triggers. And then they see something, which I do believe they saw something, the balloon, and then that just sets off a whole chain of events where everyone's shooting at the sky and nothing happens.
Yeah. Every time we shoot, there's more of them. What do we do?
It's like, they keep showing up.
I just believe old Colonel John Murphy. He's a lunar. Loves balloons.
It would be so funny. I mean, it wouldn't, because people would have died, but if they like got so scared they thought the other anti-aircraft positions were the Japanese. So like all the rooftops are shooting at each other.
Oh my gosh.
How did the Japanese get here so quickly? They built
the roofs. Oh my gosh. They've got their own lights, their own searchlights.
Oh my gosh, that Japanese battalion looks exactly like one of our anti-aircraft positions. Yeah, one of them's up there like, they built a city right under us.
There's no honor in war. They're dressed just like us.
Gotta start shooting.
They're wearing our uniforms.
Quick, they're hiding in the preschool. Open fire.
No.
No drone strikes yet.
All right, I'll take this last paragraph. It's impossible to know the actual events that took place during the Battle of Los Angeles, but the most logical and therefore boring answer is that a weather balloon was released and a misidentification led to the military opening fire on it. Then, due to the chaos and the smoke and debris, the military inadvertently convinced itself of a larger scale attack than just two balloons. This is corroborated by the testimony of the acting commander at the time, who stated that he was certain that he'd seen enemy aircraft until he realized he had only seen drifting smoke that had been produced by the exploding shells of the anti-aircraft guns. Even still, it's a hardly convincing argument overall, but it's not hard to see why there are so many theories and speculative stories about the event to this day, and we don't have a definitive answer, so it could be aliens.
So it could have been aliens.
The only proof we have of aliens is that photo of it, like a circular object maybe being behind there, but obviously...
That's enough for me. It's enough for me.
We either believe the liars, the Photoshop users from the LA Times, or we believe the lunar, the guy who loves fucking balloons and is like, he's got some kind of weird fetish. So we have to choose
right, brother, man.
as Americans.
I'm with you.
We have to choose as Americans what we believe.
I will always choose the
down.
loons. I'll choose the loon who loves balloons.
Same, yeah. I'm a loon. Burn it down.
Loves balloons. Just a loon who loves balloons.
Those are our two options, apparently, is a Luna who loves balloons and Lunas who make alien photos.
I just like the rubbing sound.
When you put the balloons together. Oh, that's why they had two balloons. Together. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Fair enough. Any last thoughts about the case, guys? Any little anecdotes or theories? Or funny witticisms?
I like it. I like that one.
Yeah, it was a good one. It's fun.
It's very good. I enjoyed it. I think it's just a fun story. Not a lot of people talk about, especially because it was in the midst of World War II. You know, there's a lot of other stuff that was happening. People talk about, but it's cool to bring up. Just over LA, a bunch of people fired guns thinking they were under attack, and that's all we know about it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
cool little story. I enjoyed it,
and it's pretty harmless story as well. I mean, 5 people did die, but that was due to unrelated kind of things happening at the time, like a car crash and stuff like that. So I don't know if you could directly attribute it to it, but Chris Hansen's living room was rattled a little bit, which is a shame.
His molasses spilled.
All right.
Yeah, he lost all his molasses. So that is a downside to the events for sure. I'm going back up to that photo, and he's a time traveler. It looks 1-to-1 with Chris Hansen.
It's like him, but cute.
No, it's him, but
it's
younger.
It's like him, but slightly kawaii.
Yeah. We're going to put this picture up on screen again. You guys let us know what you think. Chris Hansen, time traveler, yes or no? That might be the next episode. We'll do a deep dive into Chris Hansen's history and what other time periods he may have visited in the past. That's going to do it for this episode, though. Thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Red Thread. Let us know what you thought below and recommend some interesting cases for next time as well. I want to hear what you guys are wanting, so let us know. Again, the merchandise, Red Thread shirt. I'm going to move this out of the way. Yeah, you can go get this at official.men. 10 to 15% off. Go check it out. Yeah, let us know if you grab it and tag us in the pictures and stuff online. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much, you two, for joining me. Yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you next time. See you guys.
See you, bud.
Bye.
See you, fellas.
Thank you all for watching. Be sure to shoot shots randomly into the sky. Bye.